In this video, I'm gonna give you a framework of how to teach your young pitchers how to call their own pitches. All right, so if you're new here, I'm Dan Blewett. I'm a former pro pitcher, and I never called pitches for my youth baseball teams. I had a travel academy, and we would give them this framework, our pitchers and catchers, and then we would let them go out, call their own game, learn from mistakes, all that stuff. And I really believe that's a really important part of A, them developing as pitchers, learning their baseball IQ, and B, it's their game, it's their sport. Like, that's a really fun part of it, I think, the mental challenge of, the cat and mouse game. Can I, get this guy on that changeup or that curveball, learning from failure and all that stuff. So if you're a coach and you want to take the plunge and let your kids call the game, which I really hope you do, I'm going to give you basically everything that you need to tell them and teach them right here. And then you can let them do it and then just continue to reinforce things as you go. All right, so first thing, you have to tell your players about how the strike zone works. And I know they know what the strike zone is, but this is actually really important. So the big thing here is margin of error. So if the catcher is set up on the corner here, which, we'd love to throw pitches on the corner, right? It's a really hard pitch to hit hard. But if we're set up here, we're going to have less margin of error because we're going to have an equal distribution pretty much of our misses, right? So if we always miss in a big circle and the catcher is set up here, half of those misses are going to be balls. Whereas if we're set up down the middle, we have a lot more margin of error to miss the mitt and still throw a strike, right? So it's important for young pitchers to understand that when the catcher moves, it's going to change how much margin of error they have and how that interacts with the count and with the strike zone in general. So when you explain to them, hey, we're going to throw down the middle on certain counts or on the corners on certain counts, which I'll cover in a second, the reason you do that is to help them have the best chance of throwing strikes when you need one, right? So if you're 3-0 and you aim down the middle, it's not because we want to throw them a cookie that the hitter's going to just, hit into the bleachers. We're aiming down the middle because it gives us the best chance of catching up in the count. So the first thing you want to teach your pitchers about is just margin of error and explain when the catcher's mitt moves, your misses are now going to be more, you're going to miss off the plate more often than if we're set up more of the way of the plate. And when they understand that, then they can say, okay, I really need a strike here. So maybe I shouldn't have my catcher set up on the corner, or maybe I shouldn't even go on the thirds. Or they say, hey, I'm 0-2. I have tons of strikes to play with, balls to play with. Now I can go to the corners because if I miss, no big deal, and they might miss, right? Or the hitter might expand the strike zone. So number 2, let's talk about expanding the strike zone. So as hitters fall behind the count, so 0-1, 1-2, 0-2, hitters will start to be afraid of striking out, right? And so they will start to expand the strike zone, which means this pitch, they might not swing at ever if it's 2-0, right? 2 balls, no strikes. But if it's 0-2 and they're afraid of getting rung up, they might swing at this pitch. And now they're almost always going to, hit this very weakly, right? So for pitchers to understand, we can start to move off the middle of the plate when we get strikes, and then hitters are going to help us by expanding the strike zone. And the opposite is also true. So when we fall behind, like 1-0, 2-0, 3-1, we have to move the ball over the middle to try to catch up, but also hitters aren't going to help us as much. Hitters are going to narrow their focus, right? So this is how the counts work with each other. And this is another big thing to explain to your pitchers and catchers. The reason we have to throw more over the middle of the plate when we're behind and we can go more to the corners when we're ahead is A, what I just mentioned, margin of error and hitters expanding or contracting their zone on the plate. But B, we can't walk everybody. If we have tons of walks, we're not going to be successful as pitchers. We walk 2 batters, a blooper scores a run, right? So for pitchers, they always have to weigh the pros and cons of, do I go to the corner where I'm more likely to miss, or do I go back over the way of the plate where I can catch up in the count? Because when we're, ahead in the count, now we can throw our changeup, we can throw our curveball, we can throw our slider, and hitters, again, will swing at that more often because they know they have to, right? Because they're afraid of getting called out on strikes or on falling behind to 2 strikes. So helping pitchers understand how the counts and margin for error interacts with what they're going to throw is really, really important. So the next thing that you want to help your pitchers understand and catchers in calling pitches is how do we use off speed versus our fastball, right? So typically what we do here is go hard in and soft away. And the reason we do this is if, say we have a right-handed batter here, if I throw a fastball and they want to hit on their barrel, they've got to make contact way out in front of the plate, which means they've got to get their barrel out farther out in front in the same amount of time. So they've got to essentially speed up to hit that inside pitch. So if we throw really hard and we throw inside, it's going to make that fastball seem effectively even faster. And then if a hitter wants to hit barrel on a pitch on the outside part of the plate, they've got to wait longer and hit the pitch deeper on the plate, say like back here. So now, if we throw a changeup all the way on this side of the plate to a right-handed hitter, they've got to wait even longer to barrel that ball up. So when we're talking about how to sequence your pitches, we want to think, okay, do we want to throw soft stuff on the inside? Hitters are already on their front foot. Now they can wait longer and still hit it really well. So we'd rather go hard stuff inside, soft stuff away in general, because that's going to give us that natural advantage of what the hitter has to do to square it up and what we can do to maximize our speed or our speed change. The next big thing to talk about is elevation. So all off-speed stuff should be down in the zone, because when hitters are on their front foot, any stuff that's down is going to be harder for them to hit. Off-speed stuff high in the zone, even if they're on their front foot, they can keep their hands back and they can still hit it pretty well. So when we throw off-speed stuff high, that stuff gets worse. It doesn't break as sharply, and the speed timing, the off-speed change doesn't affect the hitters very well. So off-speed stuff needs to be down. Hard stuff can be up. We all know that high fastballs look really enticing, but they're also really tough to get on top of, right? So when we're starting to think about our overall pitch calling strategy, hard stuff in, soft stuff away is a good general rule. We can always, there's always exceptions, and also hard stuff up, and we want to get our off-speed stuff down. So catchers should be calling for off-speed stuff always down into the bottom of the strike zone, or they'll bounce it when they need it. All the hard stuff, fastballs, rise balls, if we're playing softball, should be up in the zone, right? So that's what we need to think about when we're talking about elevation. And as a hitter, we can throw them off when we're thinking about changing their eye level in the middle of an at-bat. If they see everything down, 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 and then it's bam, 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 and then up and in, that's going to be tough for them to adjust to and hit that ball hard. And then last, a couple of general tips. Number one, hitters, a lot of times pitchers and catchers try to map out whole at-bats. They'll be like, oh, we're going to go up and into this guy, and then a curveball down, then here. But then if you miss on the first pitch, you miss your spot, everything's got to change, right? So you're always going to kind of be one pitch at a time. And as a pitching coach, you want to just help your pitchers understand that the only pitch that really matters is the next one. So whatever came before, they can think, okay, what's the logical next pitch off, whether it was a miss or I hit my spot, either way, right? And then also helping pitchers understand what their strengths and weaknesses are. So for me, I might be really good at hitting this spot on the outside part of the plate as a right-handed pitcher, and I might really struggle to locate to this side of the plate. So as a catcher, do I want to ask my pitcher to hit this spot often or in a big jam, like if there's an important pitch? I might say, hey, we'll stick with my strengths and we'll go away from my weaknesses when it really matters, and then other times we'll still kind of mix it around. But as a pitching coach, you want to help players understand what their strengths and weaknesses are, and they won't know for a long time. It's part of the learning process, but the more they call their own game and they get feedback, both from hitters taking them deep and swinging and missing and rolling over stuff, they start to learn, okay, this is how I get outs. When I get ahead with a fastball away, then I can go in. That makes me feel I'm really good at that. And then I can finish them off with breaking balls, whatever it is. But the biggest thing you can do is help them understand the importance of getting ahead so then they can move away from the middle of the plate, helping them understand how to change speeds, change eye levels, change lateral locations, and then just look at cause and effect. When I do this, what results do I get? Am I good pitching down the zone? Am I effective pitching up in the zone? When I throw my off-speed stuff early in the count, am I good at getting those over for strikes, right? Or do I fall behind all the time? So just helping your pitchers understand who they are allows them to take ownership in their career and then continue to get better over time, all right? So thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. I really believe that all coaches should let their pitchers call the game, their pitchers and catchers. So if you can just take the first steps to educating them, which could even just include showing them this video, that can go a long way in helping them take ownership of their career and really just getting more joy out of being a pitcher and a catcher and developing that baseball IQ over time. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe. I'll see you here in the next video.